I'm Lauren. Thanks for the introduction. And today I want to talk to you about food security after disasters. Oop, there we go. That was my first slide. So currently, up to 20% of households in the US experience food insecurity in a given year. Do you know how much this increases after disasters for our coastal communities? Any guesses? It doubles. I heard doubles. It doubles for those most impacted, and that can persist for several years. Household food insecurity is already a complex issue that can be compounded in disasters. So think back to your experiences when COVID-19 first started affecting us. I'm sure you remember there was a lot of uncertainty. You might have been concerned about going to the grocery store. When you got there, the shelves might have been a little empty. This is not that different from what you experience in a hurricane or other type of event. I'm going to talk to you today mostly about hurricanes. So after a hurricane, food is not accessible if a household's vehicle is damaged or if roads are closed. Food is not available if stores are closed or if the shelves are empty. For households with storm expenses, food may not be affordable. Think if you have to evacuate or make repairs to your home. And food is not acceptable if it doesn't meet your cultural or dietary needs, or if there's no working kitchen in which to prepare your food. Overcoming these barriers requires efforts throughout the disaster management cycle. During planning, activities such as upgrading roads or buildings to withstand high winds or floods are happening in the years and months leading up to a disaster. Response activities such as distributing emergency meals are happening in the days and weeks after a disaster. And recovery activities such as getting people back into stable housing where they have kitchens, it happens in the months and years after a disaster. The challenge is government agencies, disaster response organizations have limited resources and they can't afford to do everything. So in order to allocate limited resources in the best way possible, they need to know where disaster food insecurity is highest and what actions will be most effective at addressing it. So my team asked, what if we could predict post-disaster food insecurity just like we predict storms? Could we then plan and respond more effectively to reduce the suffering of households affected by these devastating events? So with the support of the National Science Foundation, we developed Food Forecast. We used human-centered design, and we engaged with partners in North Carolina who had been affected by Hurricanes Matthew in 2016 and Hurricane Florence in 2018. We did a series of interviews and had some workshops with these community partners, and we mapped out how does the food environment get disrupted after a hurricane. From those interviews and workshops, we identified 3 pain points, or had 3 lessons. First, we heard that timely information about where those most vulnerable are located was essential, and it's not available. In the US, we measure food insecurity, we measure it at the household level. We don't really have a measure about what's happening at the community level where response is planned. Second, knowing where food needs are located is not enough. Organizations also need help making decisions about how and when to intervene. Finally, what we heard again and again from our partners is, please don't give us another tool, give us the tool. They need a single location where data can be integrated from across multiple locations because time is sensitive after a disaster, people are suffering, and so decisions need to be made quickly. Answering where disaster food security risk is highest is challenging. So current approaches are not disaster specific, and they do not consider how food system components interact with each other. So we set out to address that, and we created this new systems dynamics model. This was co-developed with our community partners, taking all the post-its that we generated at those workshops. I'm going to step through just a few elements of the model. The key output is the meal gap. This is the difference between the number of meals needed in a community and the number of meals available for a span of time after a disaster. Data inputs into the model are tailored to the community. You might have things like the number of households and hazard risk information. The model can then be perturbed with storm characteristics such as hurricane intensity, and then you can project immediate and long-term food security impacts. Using the community food system model, Food Forecast includes 3 tools. 1, a simulation testbed for planning. 2, an interactive map for response. And 3rd, a scorecard for recovery. With these tools, you can predict post-disaster food security and support communities with responding to the needs. It can be useful for a wide variety of organizations, so your federal agencies like the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the United States Department of Agriculture, who are mandated to respond, as well as your local grocery stores, community-based organizations that are meeting food needs in everyday times. As we step through each tool, I'm gonna try to illustrate with the county emergency manager as the example. Every county in the US has an emergency manager, and they coordinate any response to disasters. The simulation testbed in Food Forecast is intended for use during planning. It provides insights for how and when to intervene in places where there's a projected meal gap visualized on the map. You can simulate different interventions, such as restoring roads or power more quickly. A county emergency manager can compare the meal gap across neighborhoods and then test for different scenarios, like if we invest more money in food stockpiles or if we invest resources in evacuating more people sooner, how does that affect our food security? The interactive map in Food Forecast supports response operations. The map is preloaded with harmonized data. Here, the green shading shows the meal gap for communities, with the darker green indicating a greater gap between the need and availability. The food stores layer displays where food can be obtained, and you can actually filter by food source type, so food pantry, full-service grocery store. Users can edit the map by adding food stockpile or distribution points established during a response operation. And then a key layer models flood risk for area roadways. The flood model is innovative because it combines flooding from storm surge from the ocean, with rising river levels and precipitation. These kinds of flood estimates are hard for computers to generate, so they're not available when a storm is approaching. So what we've done is use historical data on flooding, roads that have flooded in the past, and simulations for a range of storm tracks to identify those roadways most at risk. A county emergency manager could use this information to determine where to stockpile emergency food to make sure that populations won't be cut off when roads flood. Finally, the recovery scorecard in Food Forecast displays the meal gap along economic and built environment data and allows you to monitor long-term recovery to continue to support those communities with needs. With Food Forecast, communities can plan and take action to reduce the human suffering caused by going without food after a disaster. We have 673 coastal counties in the US, and every one of them can use this to predict where post-disaster food insecurity might be an issue and take actions to reduce the doubling. I would like to acknowledge all the partners that have contributed to the development of this. And I'd like to conclude with connecting this work more directly to our campus. College students are a group that's highly impacted by food insecurity. Estimates range between 19 and 56% prevalence on campuses here in the US. So if you would like to support our campus Retriever Essentials and address food insecurity here on campus, please visit and see how you can donate. And they'll also be at the carnival on Saturday, so stop by. Thanks.